Hey everyone, welcome to episode 20 of the Never Board of Trade podcast. I'm Jaipaul.
I'm Vijay.
And this is our last podcast of the year.
Yes.
But more significantly, I think we've made it to an official milestone.
Yeah, 20 episodes.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Impressive.
I had every hope that we would make it here. I don't know that I had every confidence that we would make it to this many.
Oh, yeah. And and I think our approach, even now 20 episodes in, is as free form as possible of a conversation. Yeah. And I think in the new year, we can maybe put some structure to it a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. But if for 100%, I think one of the things I'm really appreciating is that I think they're getting better.
Yeah.
I hope anyone who's listening agrees.
Yeah.
But I know at least the three of us, you, myself, and Josh, have all been talking about ways to continue to improve this. And I think that's been really great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, better things to come.
Yeah.
And if anyone who is listening has listened to all 20, do let us know, because we will get you a
prize.
Board of Trade mug or something. But there's absolutely a piece of swag for anyone who's listened to all 20 episodes.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Cool. So end of the year.
Yeah.
You would think things are winding down. Things are not winding down. It has been an insane week, a couple weeks at the Board of Trade.
Yeah.
We've had visits with official opposition leaders. We've had some great conversations, all to talk about, and let's get to all of it.
Yeah.
But first off, you wrote something really interesting about the budget in our Advocate this week. Yeah. And I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that, because I think you created some really interesting perspectives in that piece.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So I think people have probably seen either the Bramley Road Post or the Brampton Guardian piece in Saga. There was some reporting recently around the $26 million shortfall in transit ridership fares. And that is a direct result of some of the immigration decisions made at the federal level. We've talked about it before, but Brampton is a North American success story in terms of utilizing relatively low-cost transit in the form of buses and improving headway, improving service, and as a result, improving ridership.
Yeah. And ridership is the golden number here, because that's the one that really drives, for most jurisdictions, therefore, funding. And investments to improve the service overall is usually just on the justification of how many people are taking the service in the first place.
Absolutely. A big reason why both levels of government, provincial and federal, came in on LRT funding is because we sort of made the case for higher order transit as a result of our transit ridership numbers and baseline funding and things like that. So yeah, ridership is the important metric here. We saw a 20% decline in transit ridership revenue, and that has resulted in $26 million according to the Q3 numbers. Now, I decided to write about it because we did have some meetings with the mayor's budget office to understand, how things are trending with the budget. When you combine the decline in transit ridership revenue with decline in planning revenue, you have a hole of $35 million. The goal with this blog post was I wanted to translate that into the impact on your property tax bill. And for context, for perspective, a 1% increase in property taxes roughly equates to about $15 million.
That's assuming all the ratepayers we currently have in Brampton, as best we understand.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So with that being said, the size of this shortfall is equivalent to, you could argue, 2% increase in property taxes.
If we were to maintain the service level without any change, you're talking about a 2% hike in our property tax next year.
Precisely. Now, that doesn't mean we will get a 2% increase in property taxes. The city of Brampton's already done a number of things to try to find savings. Part of that is doing a study, having staff look at ways we can sort of align service levels with demand. I think it was important for us, and based on our discussions with our members, to really highlight the fact that, yes, a good chunk of transit ridership in Brampton has come from international students. There is a significant contingent of our workforce which utilizes transit to get to and from work. And it's important that when we start looking at transit routes where we can maybe reduce I guess in this case, increase headway from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, let's say, that has massive implications on people getting to work. And so we want to make sure those employment corridors are being protected in some way. And the only way to really do that is to bring industry to the table and have a robust consultative process with folks who employ individuals and who frankly take transit to get to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that we'll be looking to do in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the holiday being what it is,
Yeah.
we may not get to this till January. But I've been doing a lot of connecting with businesses on this topic.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think these are a really vulnerable aspect of our transit system here, because the ridership numbers themselves may not appear to be extremely high, but they're critical routes to support, major employers in many cases. And again, when looking at transit ridership on the whole, and looking to make rationalizations, and to be clear, I have sympathy to the budget team. This is not an easy exercise, and I have sympathy to everyone in transit. It's not an easy exercise. It may be tempting to look at off-hour usage and things of that nature based on a conventional working day. But many of these businesses who we're also talking to, who have these high amounts of transit-dependent employees, are working 24/7 shift. The funny thing is when I raised the notion of, would you be impacted if there were reductions in transit service, the majority of those businesses not only said a resounding yes, we'd be impacted, but quite frankly, I started hearing stories about how the transit service they have currently is already insufficient. Many of these businesses who rely on transit to serve industrial areas have busing only going into the major intersections that are close by them. I was at a business earlier this week that was tucked into that East End area of industrial development. In that, I don't want to give the business away. In the Bramley and Sunpack area there, and the bus service only comes into the major intersection. So they pointed to me where their employees have to get off the bus in the middle of the night sometimes to arrive for a shift or leave from a shift. And that's a good 4 or 5 minute walk from where they are, which isn't arduous. I mean, but it is a walk in inclement weather. But significantly, I was there on a day it was snowing, and those roads were not plowed; they were not cleared. So individuals, when I was leaving the meeting I was at, were walking on the road to get to that bus stop. And that's not the only employer of ours who shared a story with me like that. So not only is this story saying, no, you got to protect the buses we have, we actually don't have enough already. It seems to be the narrative that's emerging.
For sure. And this is the perspective that I think transit planning should hear. And I think I want to be clear that the transit's not on the chopping block, at least as we understand it currently. But I think without that perspective, it's very easy to think, 5 minutes, waiting 5 minutes or waiting 10 minutes. If you're driving a car every day, you probably don't see how much that impacts the actual commute to work. And that adds up. The 4 minutes walking, on the road, it adds up. And it's also a safety issue, right? And in a time when our population continues to increase, we cannot afford to divest from transit.
Well, and let's talk about that for a second, because I think there's this, and again, you're absolutely right to point out. I don't want to make it sound like we're being alarmist. We're not suggesting transit is being cut. Our concern is that among the rationalizations that the city is facing will result in transit reductions, and they have acknowledged that they are looking at transit, but no one has said what or where. We just want to get ahead of this.
Exactly.
But all that said, I think it's worth having a side conversation really quickly, and that's about what is the relationship between transit ridership and fares that are collected and the level of service. Because this is the linkage that is being made right now. We've had a 20% drop in ridership, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about the loss of fares of $26 million as a result of that drop in ridership. And therefore, we need to think about how much service we can support. Is that the purpose for, is that relationship make sense to you? Because I don't know that it does.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And the idea that, I think the idea sort of presupposes that the fare box is a cost recovery mechanism, right? It's not. It's actually a demand management sort of mechanism. If the bus was free, you might have overcrowding and bunching and all of that, but there's a price in place to be able to sort of manage that the crowd, so to speak. But that being said, transit almost universally in North America, at least, is run at a loss. And whether it's 26 million or otherwise, I think the point of funding public transit is sort of like, funding sidewalks and
recreation centers and public libraries and all these things.
Yeah, it's because we believe that there should be a public form of transportation. So this idea that it has to be connected to the fare box, I don't think is correct. I think transit ridership is a perfectly legitimate number, and as we've seen with the Finch West LRT, this piece of infrastructure is servicing an equity-deserving community. Yeah. Right, and that has made the case for higher order transit for decades. Yeah, right, and so I think the fare box thing is sort of is not the right sort of metric. But that being said, I think in the same way that, let's say, a road, right, is not being highly trafficked, as we saw in the case of COVID, we would never suggest closing
a lane off. Yeah. I heard someone use this analogy
and at our PGR committee.
That's where it was. Yeah, you wouldn't close a lane simply because we had fewer cars driving on the road. Yeah. Why would we take away a bus?
Exactly. And in fact, we have to think about the idea that there might be ebbs and flows. Yeah. But transit ridership will continue to increase. Yeah. The demand will continue to increase.
Absolutely. And I think, I don't know what algorithm is utilized to determine where these investments need to be made, but I think about the larger attractiveness of the city as a whole, whether we're talking about developers and where they want to put in planned communities, whether you're talking about individuals who are looking to relocate, as they figure out where in the GTA they want to live, or where businesses are looking to make their investments, knowing that they have employees who can come and go from work in an easy manner. Yeah. To me, the notion of having a high functioning transit system, although the brag may have been our ridership, the real brag should be our level of service. Yeah. And having that high functioning service, to me, is an investment. It's not a cost that the city should be looking at, because it's what supports all these other elements and allows them to function.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me a little bit about the discourse around the Finch West LRT, and as we've seen, the level of service is quite infrequent. I think it's like 7 minutes on peak and 12 minutes off.
Well, I mean, they're still making, they're still drawing the observation that you can get there, you get from point A to point B with a car faster than you can on the LRT. Yeah. So it's not quite where it needs to be just yet.
I think you can make the argument, some have, that they could outrun the LRT.
Now, I want to make it very clear that no one is complaining about the quality of the trains themselves, which are built in Brampton by Brampton Board of Trade member Alstom.
Exactly.
Shout out to them.
Yes, shout out to them. But I think the fact that the infrastructure exists, the foundational infrastructure is there for us to improve upon. Yeah. And that's an important piece, right? It is going way too slow. It's going at maybe 20% of its speed. But and we don't have signal priority, right? But these are all things that we can then implement to improve this piece of infrastructure. So it's not a zero sum, right? And I feel the same way with it's
actually, you're describing a great analogy to what our GO service is here.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Well, the Kitchener line. I mean, we have real constraints with the C and Halton sub. We're not able to run as many passenger trains because we share it with freight. Yeah. That being said, the GO has released their own statistics on this. The Kitchener line, after the Lakeshore East and West, is the most well-utilized GO train line in the province.
Yeah. And I would contend, if the service actually were more frequent, you would have more usage on it. Yes. And I don't know how to prove that other than to truly believe it, because I take that GO train for a long time. My son takes that GO train daily, and I know the number of people I talk to who don't take that train because they're frustrated they can't get a seat, because they're frustrated that it doesn't run frequently enough. Yeah. And I think had Metrolinx and GO be prepared to invest more, I think that Kitchener line could do more. So to me, that notion of ridership drives the level of service, it's backwards. Service drives ridership. Well, and that's the piece that gets missed. People think it's about the cost of transit. It's about the frequency and reliability,
cost recovery and all that. Yeah.
If you can make transit work, people will use it. I firmly believe that.
I mean, just anecdotally, if I have to take the train into the city after work, I'm probably going to drive, because at the downtown Brampton GO station,
you already have to drive to Bramalea at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. It ends at 3:48. Yeah. That's the last train out until 7:00. Yeah. And I'm not going to get a parking spot at Bramalea, and I already have to drive almost half an hour to get there. Yeah. I might as well make my way downtown with my car. So I would take the train if the service was more frequent.
You know, the secret move is you drive to Vaughan and hop on the subway at 407.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's what I've been doing lately.
Okay,
it's super fast,
oh, wow.
and yeah, when the GO service isn't aligning,
well,
I use the TTC from Vaughan. That new station is beautiful too.
There's an additional layer. I would love to take the BRT to the Vaughan Metropolitan Station.
Well, so if only that were navigated for.
Exactly.
Wait a minute, it is.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. So anyway, I want to come back to the budget piece because I think it's important that we do this advocacy to make sure that we're protecting transit routes. I'll also say it's incredibly important, and I'd love for you to speak to this a little bit, for there to be robust consultation on the budget writ large when it comes to industry in Brampton. And I think there was some frustration last year that the budget was introduced and on a Friday, I think, and then we had essentially until the Tuesday to be able to make all of our commentary on a several 100-page document.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think going forward, one of our asks is to ensure that there's ample time to be able to interrogate the budget.
I quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, it's our number one ask.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that a budgeting process, and we talked about this at the last podcast when we were talking about the region appeal.
Yeah.
It's a series of trade-offs.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, for everything in that budget that I would advocate for is going to come at the cost of something I would also advocate for.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not a clear line. For some, it may be a one-issue budget. I think it's much more complex than that.
Yeah.
So for that reason, more than anything else, there has to be a thorough consultative process.
Yeah.
There's not clear rights and wrongs within the budget.
Yeah.
It's about a series of competing priorities and an understanding and coming to a consensus as a community about where we want to spend the limited resources we have and how much we can ask of our ratepayers to support the priorities that we agree collectively that we want to support.
Yeah.
And for that to be effective means there has to be a consultative process.
Yes.
And you laid out what happened last year precisely. The budget was put out on Friday and late on a Friday. I remember where I was when I got it because I was checking my phone all day for it to come out.
Yeah.
It was late into a Friday afternoon that we received the budget. To your point, giant document.
Yeah.
To the credit of the budget team, they gave an executive summary and so forth.
Yeah.
But the devil is in the details.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to go through it in that level of detail to identify where the spends are and where the opportunities therefore are. Again, coming back to our conversation at the last podcast, I don't want to be in a conversation where saying, well, if I say yes to this, it means no to this categorically.
Yeah.
I don't want trade-offs. It's got to be about balance, which means you have to get into the details to understand the implications of the changes. To your point earlier in this podcast, massive amounts of money can make that percentage difference. So if we're talking about saving, you're talking about big cuts potentially as well. We got to figure out where those are going to come from, where they impact the fewest, while quite frankly protecting the most. Because I do believe the purpose of the budget is not for the city to make money, it's to provide service and protect the vulnerable people in our community.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons, we need a process that allows us to dive in with the right people who have the subject matter expertise, because no one person will understand every aspect of that budget. You need transit people to look at transit. You need those from the business community to look at those issues as it pertains to business. And even within that, investment versus taxation versus what have you are all different pieces.
Totally.
Last year we got it on a Friday afternoon, and to your point, by Tuesday morning, there was an expectation that we were going to have a robust consultation on this budget. And to the city's credit, they held the session, but we as an organization were not able to bring forward, I felt, the appropriate level of conversation to make that a fulsome discussion, because you can only ask so much of people over a weekend to review it, and then on a Monday to come together really quickly, have some kind of briefing with you and I, and then appear on a call against Tuesday. These folks have businesses to run and lives to lead too.
For sure. And despite all of that, over the weekend, our PGR committee
people
were
stepped up.
Incredibly fastidious in their examination of this document. And but here's the problem. Even if we do identify line items that we might want to contest in some way, how often can we do that? And not how often, but where and when can we realistically do that when just 10 days later the budget is passed in closed session, right? So there needs to be a level of I think more than anything, the meta challenge with all of this is we need to introduce a culture of debate and transparency and participatory democracy when it comes to documents like this, right? And we're still getting used to the strong mayor powers and all of that, But yeah, that's an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and I think you're going on a little easy on the strong mayor powers. You're right. That is a structural thing that allows the budget to be pulled together in the manner that it is.
Yeah.
But the strong mayor powers do not, by default, suggest that you can't have a consultative process. It's like you don't need to have a consultative process.
Yes.
So to suggest that that is the reason, it creates perhaps a little bit of a desire to have some expediency. It enables a certain amount of expediency, rather. But it doesn't preclude any type of consultative process.
No.
That's a decision that's made to move things through at a speed that allows fewer and fewer people to participate in a process that, quite frankly, belongs to us. We're the people. We're the citizens and residents of this community. We're the ones who pay the taxes. And we should have the opportunity to weigh in on matters that affect us.
Yeah.
And that demands a certain amount of space and time to have the consultation, the rigor, and then, quite frankly, to ask the questions.
Yes.
And that's the part that really gets missed, right?
Yes.
Because when you have that shortened period, and you're right, people were brilliant, and they put in the time, and we got some really robust comments on a Sunday night that you and I were able to look at on a Monday morning and put into.
Yeah.
But all we're able to do at that point then is share observations.
Exactly.
We weren't able to ask questions that were going to get responded to because there simply wasn't enough time baked in.
Yep.
So a process that is transparent, and quite frankly, I do find it unfortunate. We're in late December. We still haven't gotten firm dates on when things are going to be released. I got an outreach today on some potential dates for some potential consultations to try to hold in my calendar. And I appreciate the city reaching out to do that. It gives me something. But there's no reason we couldn't have had this all penned out months ago to say, this is the date the budget's getting released. This is the day of the consultation. This is the day to come to council to engage in debate. This is the day it's going to get improved. There's no reason a timeline can't be laid out other than there's a lack of desire to have this process being done in an open and transparent way. And that's just unacceptable.
I appreciate you saying that. The regional budget has been, the draft has been in circulation for at least a month longer. There have been at least 3 budget meetings regarding the regional budget.
And when you say budget, I think it's important. Open to the public budget meetings.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I've attended 2 public meetings. And I think, personally, if we're talking about the same ratepayer, the same taxpayer, the budgets of Brampton, the region, Mississauga, Caledon should be made available at the same time.
Yeah.
At least the drafts. That's my personal view. But in any case, maybe a good news story that we can transition to is Bill C-16.
Sure.
And you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
A little bit. I I just think it's interesting because it's not tied so much to some of our local issues as much. But we've been, we don't choose to be critical, but we try to take an eye of trying to be constructive in our criticism. But when it comes to matters of government, and I think with this current Liberal government, that there's been a lot to criticize. Yeah. And this particular time, I think they did something really great. Yeah. So this bill that was passed yesterday is basically creating it's enshrining into law. Into the
criminal code.
In the criminal code. Thank you. I just had a moment there. That crimes of intimate partner violence and femicide are now going to have very, very strict legal repercussions, 25-year sentences without the opportunity for parole. It's actually putting in place much stricter and penalties available to any type of cyber stalking, crimes of financial extortion, things of that nature, where partners can actually put pressure and inflict violence in non-physical ways upon their partners as well. And I find it interesting because this was a government who, the previous Liberal government, really presented themselves as a feminist government. Yes. And it was a lot of talk, a lot of effort was made to present a balanced cabinet from a gender perspective. Apparently we had a feminist foreign policy, which was never clearly defined what that meant. But we, a lot of what I would describe as lip service was paid to trying to create an equality in our society for women. Yes. And it had very mixed results because I don't think they ever actually put words to what that meant. Yeah. And then a few weeks ago, Prime Minister Carney stepped away from that comment around feminist foreign policy. I do not have a feminist foreign policy.
I was going to say there seems to be an abdication of that at some level, maybe as a way to create some daylight between the previous government and.
I very much think so. I very much think so. But what I was worried was what it was we brought in Prime Minister Carney. I say we, the collective folks. The premise was to be the country's CFO. And straighten out matters related to the economy, and other matters were less important. And my fear was when he made a statement like that, was that it meant that issues that had social import were not issues that were going to be meaningful.
Yes.
And then we saw, again, we talked a little bit about it last week, the changes that were made with the pipeline and the impacts being made to First Nations communities. Like, was there really a balanced approach to marginalized folks in our society? Was he just going to push through economic priorities at the expense of others? But with this bill yesterday, it demonstrated that I think you were right. It wasn't about not having a balanced approach. It was saying, I need to create some daylight between me and the previous regime. I'm going to step away from anything that felt like it was fluffy, but I am going to support the passing of a bill that's actually going to give some real teeth. Now, it's up to the provinces to decide how they apply that. So let's be clear. The criminal code is passed federally, but is interpreted provincially. So it doesn't mean that what was passed yesterday will necessarily be adopted in Ontario or Alberta or wherever. But I love the notion that this federal government is giving something with real meaning and substance to a population here that has been underserved, but quite frankly, I think got a lot of lip service in the previous government. I think we are critical at times. I felt this was an opportunity to give someone a pat on the back.
That's a good take. I like that. That's a good assessment, because I'll be honest with you, I saw the headlines and I thought, oh, this is good. This is great. But to put it in context like that, I think is an important sort of marker of how legislation actually can create a meaningful impact. When we talk about a feminist government or a feminist foreign policy or whatnot, I think the reason why people they roll their eyes is because that feels like virtue signaling. But here's an example of something that is actually substantive and can move the needle in the lived experience of these individuals whom we claim to care for, right? In a way. So.
And now, so all that said, if I put on my go back to my cynical tinfoil hat, that I normally am, I do also believe this does serve some political motivation as well. This is a government in its previous iteration that was accused of being very soft on crime. And crime and safety continues to be an issue in the minds of the voters, as we know, at all levels. I think this does serve everything we talked about. I don't think it diminishes it at all. But it also serves, I think, a secondary purpose. And that demonstrates that in this particular case, at least now, this government can point to and say, we got tough. We put minimum sentencing on a particular type of crime. And we've established that we're not going to go lightly on those who are convicted. And right now, when our criminal justice system is being portrayed like it's a turnstile, and it's not rehabilitating people and it's not incarcerating people, it's just putting people back out. At least now, I think that notion of the minimum sentencing was critical for them for that reason as well. And I agree with it regardless for this particular statute. But I do believe if there was a political motivation, it was that one as well.
For sure.
They can point to that now and say, we got tough here. We put minimum sentencing on something.
I definitely see that. And as we know in Brampton, the issue of safety and crime was particularly pronounced.
Absolutely. And well, I think this is the main reason they almost lost the election here. Or we saw where the ridings in which it was closest were those in which conservative candidates ran on a crime and safety message more than the anti-Trudeau message. Or more than on a financial message. The closest contest, and the ones where we were surprised, like long-standing incumbents almost lost their seats, was because they couldn't answer the question on crime and safety. They were there to battle the Trudeau message, but they didn't realize they came to the wrong fight, and they were lucky in some cases to save their seats. So I think it was important to them to make sure that they're showing that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we can continue to see more as well.
Thanks for sharing that. Maybe we can transition now into maybe a bit of a retrospective of the year.
Sure.
And maybe looking ahead to 2026.
I would like that. We were talking earlier, like how do we wrap this up? Episode 20, but also the last episode of 2025. Big 2026 to come organizationally. Big 2026 to come for the podcast. We think we've got some silly ideas for maybe episode 25, doing something really big and ridiculous. Josh is excited to do something big and ridiculous for episode 25. But yeah, I thought a great way to end the year would be looking back a little bit, because we spend a lot of time here looking forward. We barely even spend time with the president, feels.
Yes.
So for you, what was your one or two highlights of 2025 within the work of what we do here at the Board of Trade?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for me, the big highlights for me are when we get to be in rooms where people feel like they've just they feel motivated and inspired, and they feel like they're part of a community or part of something. And I feel like we have all of our events do that to some degree. I think some of our events do that more effectively, or maybe that's the explicit intention of them. I really felt moving the needle was, which is our event in March, around housing affordability, and particularly geared at young people. That to me was like, I can't wait to do it again. And I felt it was really special. It was a free event. It was in the evening, so a younger crowd did come out, early career. But I also invited folks in spaces where the Board of Trade hasn't traditionally engaged. The cooperative housing folks, the community land trust folks, developers as well, and the nonprofit service providers and the developers don't often interact with each other. I invited students and of course Civic Action invited folks from their emerging leaders network. And it was just a fantastic evening of good conversation, but also, I think, changed minds and sort of gained perspectives, but also a good social evening as well. Like, people had fun. Rick's Good Eats was there. Like,
your parents came to that one.
Yeah, my parents came out. Yeah, my parents, my partner. Like, it's just it was, and my friends. Like, it was really nice. It was really nice. Good dialogue, productive dialogue, and I think it inspired Brampton in Motion in September, quite a bit. So yeah, that was a big highlight for me. And then if I can say a second one,
say as many as you want.
Yeah, it was actually just last week I joined Metamorphosis for a series of discussions with MPPs based in Mississauga around the need for greater funding for social services in Peel. And the impetus for this was that Peel has grown at a exorbitant rate, and an outsized rate, I should say. And because it's a newer municipality in some ways than the Toronto or Hamilton, it hasn't kind of caught up to the legacy funding models that these two cities have had and enjoyed. And what felt really rewarding in that process was being able to share with elected officials the perspectives of some of our members, and in particular, not just our members, but our community members as well. And talking about the sort of underground civic institution pulling its weight on food insecurity, which is the Gurdwara, right? And the Gurdwaras in our communities who are feeding young people. If you look after work, after 5 p.m., you go into a Gurdwara, it's a lot of young people who are participating in langar and in the food service. So yeah, that day was a reminder that the work that we do is there's a reason why we are talking about things like public transit and affordable housing, and we support the work of Metamorphosis. There's a lot of work to do in the community.
I totally appreciate that, and what you're touching on is, I had two likewise, and I'll share my second one first because it's very similar to what you're describing here. And there's been a number of points this year of validation of what we're trying to build here. I share all the time that I don't think of this as a business organization. It's a community organization that happens to be made up of business people, and that the point of this is to build a better community and a better city that lives up to its potential, and that is the city we deserve. And therefore, there are things that we need to do that go above and beyond, that which a board of trade normally does.
Yeah.
And we've had a few moments this year where that moment of validation has been really, really rewarding for me to be part of. And so some recency bias would be, having gone to regional council a couple of weeks ago. And the surprise that people had that we were there as a business organization, not to talk about tax rates for businesses or some commercial rent issue, but instead there to talk about funding for social services in our community and recognition that the business community needs to be part of these discussions. Being able to and the access this job gives me to do things like go to do visits at our Mag House and see the work that's being done there and see how our members, the business community, are contributing. You and I got to go to Regen. I've been to so many community events this year where I've gotten to get behind the curtain, see what these organizations do, and play a role. And being at the tree lighting last week and getting to be on stage while they're handing out presents to kids. This is crazy stuff that is not the work of a board of trade. It's the work of a community organization. And to know that we've been invited and to know that people want us to be there and to know that people appreciate us being there is really rewarding and gratifying to me, because it feels like that we're doing the thing that we set out to do. We are contributing to the community as a whole. And as I see our members getting involved in those initiatives, whether they're donating financially or their employees are showing up when we went to build a house with Habitat for Humanity or whatever the case may be, it means a lot to me to say it's moving in the right direction. And there's so much more to do. But these things, building on what you're talking about, going to being part of the Metamorphosis Network and getting to go knock on some doors of MPPs and talk to them about food insecurity and those, experiencing homelessness in our community. What can we do about it? And what's the Board of Trade doing here? That stuff means so much to me.
Absolutely.
Because it's hard to do that. The easy thing to do in our jobs would be to stick to our knitting. But we go off in all these different directions. I think we do it for the right reason. I think we do it with good intention. And it means so much to me when I get that bit of validation, that even the slightest bit, that it is appreciated, acknowledged, and that we should be doing more of it. So I really like that part. And then the other part I think that was really good for me this year, similar to what you're describing, it's sort of like these moments sort of within events. And we run, I think we do a really great job. And we talk a lot about, you and I get a lot of stage because of the nature of our roles in the organization. Josh, I think people hear his name because he's in the background on these. But Josh and a whole bunch of other people, Sonia, Brianna, Natalie, Jen, do so much. Ansar, did so much to help this organization be functional and achieve so many things that other people don't see. And so it's easy at big events to say, oh yeah, we're doing a great job when we bring the premier or the mayor and they're here for a guest and the event is run excellently and everyone does a great part of their job and the graphics look fantastic and all that. Where I get really excited, it's when it's the events that no one should show up at and no one should care about. We had our AGM a couple weeks ago. Who's going to come out and listen to me talk for an hour about governance, the finances, and just muse at a microphone and be emotional about it, and then you get your 10 minutes to talk about advocacy nerdery,
and survey results,
results. and like 150 people showed up to that. And on a night that it was snowing, after work, and we offered them very little in return, a little bit of snacks, a very good guy on the steel drum, but that was basically it. And so it means a lot to me when we see the big rooms full of stuff, and I know the team is humming, and we're executing on this super high level. But the parts that mean the most to me is when people come out to show support for us for things they should not support or care about. Because that really shows the quality of the work that the team does.
For sure.
They're invested in what we're doing. And it shows me that, the biggest part of this job is listening. And I know the irony of someone who never shuts his mouth, but it's that validation again, that whatever we think we're hearing the right things. Because if we weren't hearing them, if we weren't asking the right questions and we weren't listening well and we weren't hearing what people were saying, then they wouldn't be coming out. They would have given up on us because we'd be doing the wrong things. Or they wouldn't think we had the empathy and the care that we do. But it's those little moments People surprised. What are you doing at the food bank here today? It's these little moments of like, we're running an AGM, the most boring of events we could do, and everyone shows up to show support. This is to me is the proof point that what we're building here is worthwhile. Because everything else you can kind of do with enough pageantry, you get the right guest, you can make it happen. It's the stuff that shouldn't work. It's the places that people don't expect to see you. And then it's working. To me, that's the validation that we're doing something worthwhile here.
For sure. No, I'm glad you brought that up. I think I feel like good people can sense good people, and I think the desire for connection is something that I realize is a growing need, not just in our community but everywhere. And organizations that just provide space to connect is in short order. And there's so many reasons not to connect. There's so many reasons to do something virtually and to just create a space, a physical space where people can connect. I think that's why we had so many people at our AGM. It's because it wasn't the governance piece that brought them. It was because they know that we create a space of warmth and connection. Really, really enjoyed that. And I'm constantly just beside myself and impressed that our community shows up, and like the engagement with Marit Stiles, I think was a good example, and we have one coming up with the Minister of Red Tape Reduction. I don't expect these are last minute engagements. This is we
were calling people like 2 days before.
Oh, we're in town. This day. It's a few days from now. Like, can you get a group together? I'm expecting maybe it's just you and me, in these coffee shops.
We were prepared to do a coffee chat in our office.
But you just pick up the phone or you just send an email, and the willingness and eagerness and desire to come out to something like that, because I think they know that there are a million reasons why the system doesn't work. But we are radical optimists, and we are pushing through, and I think people can sense that.
No, I do believe that. I'm always I struggle to sort of take praise easily, but this one I will take. I think people actually do like what we're doing, and they appreciate it. They see the effort. They see the effort, and they know it's genuine. And I think that does go a long way, because it's easy, I think, for people to be cynical. I think it's easy for people not to do things. I think in this community, unfortunately, we're in some of the pickles that we are because it was easier for no one to do anything for a long time.
For sure.
And I think people are just excited that, oh my gosh, someone's doing something. And they seem like they're nice people too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I was going to say, and to your point, it's not you and me per se. Like, I hope this isn't coming across as self-congratulatory. It's everybody involved, and it's people who've been involved for a long time who've just, including myself, because I was born and raised in this community. I've been given this new energy and excitement about what we're doing here through your leadership and the leadership of everyone involved. And I think, it's something special. So I wanted to share that as well. It's a community isn't just one or two people.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the one other thing I will say, and I'm not saying it just because we are actually recording the podcast, but this was absolutely a highlight for me this year. Like, I've been wanting to do something like this forever, and I'm so happy we've been able to have these 20 conversations, and that this is actually feels like it's working. And the number of people, we've said it before. Today was my brother's birthday, and I phoned my brother this morning to wish him happy birthday. So happy birthday, Tony. Because he listens to the podcast.
Nice.
He told me today he listens to the podcast.
Oh, that's great.
And he referred back to one of the episodes. And he also told me he was in the car, and my nephew and my niece heard us and were trying to understand why I was on the radio. Nice. To my nephew and niece, Daya says hi. But just to know that this is finding audience in ways that I hadn't anticipated, and not everyone is listening out of just because they know us. That people are genuinely getting value out of these conversations. I get so much value out of this and hanging out here with you and Josh to record these. And it means so much to me that other people are listening and finding something in this as well. So thank you to everyone, because I mean it sincerely. This was something that Vijay and I talked about doing just to amuse ourselves and to know that we found an audience and that people who care about this means a lot to me. This has been one of the highlights of the year for sure.
For sure.
And so as we look forward, 2026, a big year.
Yes.
I know you've got radical, crazy plans.
Do I?
I don't know. I just assumed that you do. I just felt like it was a good setup.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. In terms of what I'm looking forward to, I think, given my role, I'm going to look forward to some of the advocacy stuff. I look forward to getting some clarity on how this LRT is being funded.
Yeah.
And
So I feel like a lot of FOI requests are about to go in.
There you go. There you go. That would be great, especially because at Brampton in Motion, Minister Sarkaria said in a matter of months we will hear some good news.
Sure. Technically, 5 years is only 60 months.
There you go. But he did make good on his word, because he also did say that we'd hear some good news about the 413.
He did.
And we just learned that the 410 will be connected to the 413 now. So that's good. But there's that, and then two-way all-day go. I really want to. We've been advocating for this forever, but at least since I started, we've been really focused on these 4 tracks. And I'm hoping that we can get some good news on that very soon. But in terms of the stuff that we're doing operationally here, it's an election year.
Yeah,
we have
a big one.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah. I'm looking forward to all the local coverage, and we were a part of the Y Media coverage for the federal elections, and we did our own thing for the provincial, and then we had some media engagements, but when it comes to the local, and I'm talking about the local sort of political environment, I'm really excited to get people energized and interested, and really make these issues tangible for people. And we have an elections task force, which is a subset of our PGR committee. So I'm really excited to get them cooking up some ideas and executing at our events, letting people know that, hey, an election's coming, and how can we be a civic institution to galvanize people to participate in our democracy. That's the stuff that really gets me going. So yeah, a lot of big plans there. And then I'm looking to kind of scale up everything that we've already been doing, like moving the needle. We're going to do again. We're going to do Brampton in Motion again. We utilize the Rose Theater. Maybe we'll go from Studio 2 to the main.
Oh, I like that. I like that bigger.
Yeah, let's see.
CAA Center the year after that. I'm liking where this is going.
There you go. Yeah, Scotiabank Arena. And then the white paper. I mean, we're still pushing out the transportation.
Oh no, white papers.
White papers. There you go.
I'm determined to make multiple next year.
Listen, there are so many. I think this transportation white paper really ignited the imagination of a lot of people, and I think having this artifact has been so useful to refer to when you meet a politician. You give them this white paper and say, if you want to learn more about 4 tracks, here it is. If you want to learn more about the Alto, here it is. So I'm looking forward to having that for a few different issues.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I think the more of that thought leadership we can share, the better. I think that's going to be fantastic for the organization.
Yeah,
and in part because twofold. It's not just actually I actually misstated it. It's not the sharing of the information. Yeah. That's the secondary part of it. It's actually the creating of the thought leadership.
Yes.
That in and of itself is fascinating, because that has allowed us. How much bigger is our network of smart people having done the transportation white paper?
You're right.
That alone, that we can talk to those individuals, have conversations with them. And it's not just you and Jonathan who are on the front. There's all those other folks who consulted, read drafts, gave us feedback. Yes. We know so many more brilliant people who are able to give us great insight. Even if that paper never got printed, we still would have gained.
Oh my gosh.
The fact that we're able to hand it out in all the ways you're describing, and the ways that it's drawing people in the organization, has only been icing on the sundae, or cherry on the sundae, whatever the analogy is. Which is why I want to do more of these.
Yes.
Because to me, it's the papers themselves are great.
It's the process.
But it's the process. It's just the intellectual exercise of putting that together, chasing our curiosity, and doing that homework is so much fun.
It is.
And the learning that came about from that. First one is so great. That's why I want to do more next year, because I know there's an interest broadly in hearing the white papers. And for those who are interested, we're looking at doing ones around affordable housing and one around workforce development in our community. And but I know that the process of putting those together and engaging with experts is going to be amazing for us.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. What are you looking forward to?
So the election piece is absolutely one for me as well.
Yeah.
That notion of trying to get people energized, draw folks in. We talked about, how people are sensing the energy, feeling what's happening here. I want to give people an outlet for that.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate what's been drawn into the Board of Trade. Next year is an opportunity for us to push it out.
Yeah.
And that means, going out to the community and saying, okay, here are the issues. Here's what we need you to do. And that means get informed and vote. I'm not even, who people vote for is not our business.
Yeah.
Our job is to make sure people feel well informed, understand what the issues are, make sure they understand which of those candidates can deliver on those issues, and then make sure they get to the ballot box on time.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, with the energy that we've created around here, the engagement that we have here, the platform that we've created here, I think that's going to be a really fun exercise next year.
I think so
to work with that elections task force that you've created, but also to work with all the amazing community partners that we've developed, Metamorphosis and others, to help us again learn about these issues, identify what the implications of them are, and use the term civic institution. You and I use that a lot, and I think you introduced me to it. And it's my favorite word to use to describe the Board of Trade. It's what I want us to become. And to me, that's part of that manifestation of that ultimately.
Yeah.
When we become a trusted source of leadership in the community writ large, then I'll be happy with what we've created.
I love that.
And I feel like that's the next logical step now, is to say, how do we take all this trust and enthusiasm we've built and now use it to influence something for the good? And we've done it in some small ways in terms of creating good dialogue around issues. We've done it in some good ways around redirecting some people to some charitable and worthy causes in our community. But the next step really is to say, okay, how do we influence the leadership of our community in a positive way? And even if we end up with the exact same council that we have right now, I'm not even suggesting people have to change, but just knowing that there's an electorate that's engaged, informed, and is going to demand results, even if you have all the same people, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm not even suggesting we're here to change.
Overthrow, no.
Yeah. I mean, if a coup happens, that's just fun for coup's sake. But what I want is to know that we allowed people to really feel like they were part of the decision-making process of the community, which comes back to the whole budget piece. It's the exact same thing for the election piece. But the election piece would just be so much more fun. We have a whole year to play with that toy.
Totally. No, 100%. And I came to the Board of Trade from a democracy organization. To me, this is really my wheelhouse because I truly believe, and sometimes I get on my soapbox, but I truly believe that improving our democracy and the way we do outreach and all of that, it will turn cynicism into activism. It's the single mechanism that can channel frustration and discontent into actual change. Right, and there have been successful examples of that, and I think they've almost always been driven not by government itself, not by the politicians we elect, but by institutions like ours, right? Like civil society organizations. I keep talking about that, but it really is driven by organizations like the Board of Trade and nonprofits that really help do that interstitial work. To get people engaged in a process, and I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, no, I 1,000% agree with you, and I think one of the things that I have learned, you come to it from an academic and professional lens. I come at it from my life experience lens. For me, I have always been astounded, and I continue to be astounded, the very, very small amount of friction that stops people from taking action.
Yes.
It's the something is 2 minutes out of my way. Something is just I have to look something up, one more page one more click than I thought I had to. The smallest amount, it's just a little bit too cold outside, it's raining, whatever the case may be, stops people from getting active in their community, stops them from voting, stops them from coming out to community meetings, stops them from volunteering, stops them from doing the things that we need to have a functional community. The friction level is not high. And you can look at that and conclude one of two things. Sometimes in my darker moments, I'm like, it's such a bummer that it takes so little to stop people from doing something. But 99% of the time, I'm like, if that's all that's stopping them, we can fix that. If it's only a little bit of friction, that means we just have to sand out a little bit of friction. And that means if I can make it so it's just a little bit easier for you to find the information that you need, if I can just make it so the information comes to you instead, if I can tell you exactly what the asks are, I think we can mobilize a lot of people to do a lot of good in this community. I'm really excited for that next year. And then in general, I think there's just gonna be a lot of great stuff. Things are changing in fun ways. We're gonna do a lot new program. I don't want to do a bunch of Board of Trade plugs, but there is a bunch of new programming coming that I'm really excited about. We're gonna, we want to have more of a focus on young people, and we've got some events that are focused around that. I want to do, some practical stuff. med and health tech related programming.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of announcements from the federal government around defense spending. What is that going to look like? And how does that affect what's going on in our community from a business perspective? I'm really excited just because it's new topics. I like learning stuff. I like being nerdy. And I'm going to get to nerd out on a whole bunch of new topics. So I'm really excited about that as we get to talk to even more subject matter experts as we try to put events, symposiums, and forums together. So I love what we're doing, but I love that we're going to be doing new things.
Yeah.
Because I know it's going to stretch my brain even more. And I will say this, something has happened the last couple of weeks. I know I've been like kind of almost on edge because I'm so tired. I've been working really, really long hours.
Yeah.
But I have definitely found some gear that I thought I didn't have. And I thought I found a gear the last couple of weeks that I thought I left a couple decades ago. Like I felt like the way I could work in my 30s, like I found that again.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if the
Wow.
work is inspiring me, if I've just like hit the wall and went through it or whatever.
Yeah.
But my energy for this work, even though my physical body needs the holiday break very badly, I need a lot of sleep. My enthusiasm for the work has never been higher than it is right now.
Wow.
And my capacity to dive into it has never been higher than it is right now.
Wow.
I am so excited for what's going to come next year because there's just so much for us to do.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's working.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, how can we accelerate this process now? How can we go bigger and even make an even more impact? So I'm really psyched.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a good year. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
I think so.
All right. So shall we wrap it up here? Or
I think so, yeah.
any final thoughts for 2025?
You know what? What I will say is I am incredibly grateful to all of the new relationships that we've developed, all the existing relationships that we carried through into 2025. We're putting together a bit of like a maybe I shouldn't spoil the surprise, but like a Spotify wrap for Bbot, and I think it's a really fun way. And Bree took leadership in putting that together, and I think it's a really fun way to look back at our impact this year. And I'm looking forward to sending that out. Yeah.
Awesome. I couldn't say it better than that. Like, more to come, the full recap to come. And thank you again for listening. Reminder, if you listen to all 20 episodes, we'll just do it on good faith. Let us know. We'll get you a bug. And have a great holiday. And we'll see you all in 2026. But thank you so much for listening.
Happy New Year.